In the following video, you'll learn about utilitarianism. Utilitarianism is a substantive moral theory. That means it'll attempt to answer the question about what is morally right or morally wrong. The motive behind this theory is that everybody already does everything for happiness. For a philosophical morality, that means that it should apply to everyone. So, according to this theory, morality is about happiness. The main term for this theory is utility, which is about increasing pleasure or decreasing suffering. Both of those count as increasing happiness. Even if you're miserable, becoming less miserable means an increase in utility. The main principle for utilitarianism is that the right thing to do is whatever increases utility overall the most. That means taking into account all the things that are affected. For example, imagine that you have 10 doses of life-saving medicine, which is not enough for everyone. If there are 10 people who need 1 dose and 5 people who need 2 doses, then the greatest utility comes from saving the 10 people who each need 1 dose. That way, you have 10 happy people and 5 unhappy, a net gain of 5. If instead you gave the 10 doses to the 5 people who each need 2 doses, then you'd have 5 happy people and 10 unhappy people, which would give you a net utility of -5. You can probably already see some complications. Is everyone's life equal? If someone is very young, is their life worth less than someone who is more experienced? What about athletes, scientists, or parents? Also, is all suffering equal? Which suffering is worse? Something that is intense but brief, or suffering that's mild but lasts for a long time? Which has the greater utility? One way to answer this is using Bentham's felicific calculus. This can be used to calculate which choice leads to the greatest utility. The calculus takes into account the intensity, the certainty, the duration, remoteness, purity, fecundity, and extent of the happiness or suffering. Other features of the utilitarian theory is that it's consequentialist. That means it looks at the consequences of people's actions to figure out whether or not it's morally good or bad. This is different than other theories which, for example, take into account people's character. One way of saying that is that the ends justify the means. Another interesting feature of utilitarianism is that good intentions don't matter. If you think that good intentions do matter for a moral theory, then you won't find utilitarianism as convincing. Another feature is that everyone's happiness counts and is equal. This means that you can't take your own happiness as being more important than someone else's. You also can't take the happiness of a family member over the happiness of a stranger. There are 2 variations of utilitarianism. The first is called act utilitarianism, created by Jeremy Bentham, who was alive from 1747 to 1832. On this version of utilitarianism, you should do whichever action which will lead to the greatest utility. The second variation is called rule utilitarianism, not act utilitarianism. This was created by John Stuart Mill, who was alive from 1806 to 1873. On this version of utilitarianism, the moral thing to do is to act according to whichever rule that will lead to the greatest utility. Both theories are about acting so as to achieve the greatest utility. It just depends on whether you look at a single act or rules which can guide those actions. Thank you for watching.